Ever scroll through like friend requests on your phone and you're like, wait, have I met this person? It's funny, right? Making friends. It's like everyone does it. It's this universal thing. But then it's like, why is it so hard sometimes?
Yeah.
And you know what? You put it perfectly in your notebook. You're asking that big question. Why is it so hard for some people to make friends? So that's what we're diving into today. Your thoughts on this? We've got theories, personal experiences. It's going to be good.
Well, and it's such a fascinating question, too, because it's something that comes up clinically all the time. You know, people want to understand this.
Yeah.
What is it about today's world that can make connection feel so tricky?
Yeah. It's like we have all the pieces, but we don't know how to put the puzzle together.
Right.
But I think you've got a really good starting point in your notebook. You start by just getting right to the heart of it. And I love this because you wrote it in Spanish.
Okay.
And I want to read it verbatim because I know how important the nuances are to you. You wrote, ¿Por qué a tanta gente se le complica tener amigos? And for everyone else, that's, why is it so complicated for so many people to have friends?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is the question.
Yeah.
So simple, but so profound.
Absolutely. And what I appreciate is that you didn't just pose the question. You started to examine potential answers based on your own experience, which I think is really cool.
It's like you're doing social research, but like, out in the wild, you know?
Yeah.
And one theory that you had really stuck with me. You said that, some people, maybe they just don't invest enough time in making friends. Like you mentioned, everyone's always on YouTube or playing video games or just like choosing sleep over going out and actually, being social.
100%.
It's like we've made socializing the optional side quest.
Yes. Instead of the main mission. And you think about the way that our world is kind of structured right now, right?
Yeah.
With passive entertainment,
Yeah.
Streaming, social media, we're just constantly bombarded with things to consume. It's so easy to fall into that trap.
And then on top of that, you've got this like fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not plugged in, you
Right.
feel like you're missing something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like our brains are almost being rewired to prioritize, the digital world over these real-life interactions that deep down I think we still crave as human beings.
We do. We're social creatures. And that actually leads perfectly into your next point. You were saying that, some people, they might even have the social skills, but they're just kind of closed off.
Right.
They don't let people in.
Yeah.
You even used this phrase. You said, son simpáticos, pero pasan amor cerrado, ensimismado. They're friendly, but then they go into this like closed off mode.
Yes.
Lost in their own world. It's like they can play the part, but they don't want to pull the curtain back. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that actually highlights the difference, the very important distinction between, having social skills, knowing how to kind of like go to a party, make small talk, all of that.
Right.
Versus being able to genuinely connect with someone. And that's where vulnerability comes in.
Yes.
Shared experiences, letting someone see the real you.
Which is way scarier.
It is. It is.
To pull back that curtain and be like, this is me, flaws and all.
Right. Are you going to like what you see?
Exactly. Exactly. And, another theory that you had, and this one I think is so interesting because it's like, sometimes it's not that we're not trying, but we're putting the effort in the wrong place.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You had this example about, like, wishing you had a friend to just go hang out in the park with, but then you're spending all this time online chatting with people who are miles and miles away.
Yeah, interesting.
It's like...
misplaced effort.
It is. It's like we're shopping in the wrong grocery aisle or something.
Yes.
And you talked about the internet being a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So clearly, you see the value in it, but you're also like, there's another side to this. What is it about the internet that feels tricky for you in that sense?
It's interesting, I think, when we have the world at our fingertips, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
With the internet, it can make, sometimes I think, those local connections feel even more like, oh, do I have to?
It's intimidating.
Absolutely.
It's like there's this high bar suddenly.
Yes.
And, I love this because your notebook entry, it doesn't just look at like the big picture of here are the theories. You actually get really personal about your own experiences, which I think is where it gets super, super interesting.
Because I think our personal experiences give us so many clues about what would actually feel good to us.
Yes. And this is where I think we should bring in this quote because this really stuck with me. And I'm going to read it in Spanish again because it just hit me. I was like, oof. Yeah. En mi caso es porque mi cerebro se apaga cuando interactúo con extraños Y en un estado de emergencia, mi personalidad se moldea a la de un ser incómodo de no habla, no tiene gustos, quejas u opiniones personales.
Wow.
So good, right? Like, brain just shuts off. You
Yeah.
become this awkward turtle, like, retracting into your shell.
Yeah, that's real.
I've been there. One time I was, like, so nervous to meet a new group of people that I accidentally introduced myself as Bartholomew
Oh, no.
instead of my actual name.
Wow.
My brain was like, new identity, let's go with it.
Social anxiety is so real.
Oh, it's the worst.
It really is.
It's like that fight or flight, but instead of fighting or flighting, it's just freeze.
Yes.
And you just, like, die inside.
And then the monologue starts.
Oh, the monologue is the worst. Why am I so awkward? I should have said something funnier. What is wrong with me?
All the things we tell ourselves
Yes.
in those moments.
The self-sabotage is real, my friend. It's real. And, you mentioned this other stuff, too, in your notebook. Like, sometimes you have difficulty relating to other people. You feel like an outsider. You feel like your humor doesn't land the way that you want it to.
Right.
And it's like, all of these things, you're putting them out there. And I'm like, but those are such valuable pieces of information.
Yes.
Because it's telling you something about maybe the kind of connections you actually want deep down.
Yes. Or what you're really craving, right?
Yes.
So if if you love your humor
Yes.
and you feel like it's not landing, it might not be the humor. It might be the people that you're with.
Yes. Find your people.
Find your people. Exactly.
Find your people, because shared interests are good, but like shared humor, that's next level.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that like you get me kind of humor.
You get me.
Yes.
The best. And speaking of finding your people, you had this line in your notebook, and I was like, okay, I see you.
Uh-oh.
You were like, it's always better to just buy a dog.
Right.
They're better friends than many people are. Little food, roof over their head, happy. They don't demand anything more. And I was like, first of all, I get it.
Yeah.
Dogs are great. I remember that time I thought my dog was fluent in French.
I do remember that vaguely.
Yeah. Turns out she wasn't. But, I had high hopes. My neighbor's poodle was not impressed. But I think what you're getting at there is really important.
Well, I think it speaks to...
It's like, what does that say about how we view friendship if we're like, you know what? A dog sounds way easier.
Right. Less complicated.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to... We're so used to seeing, like, the highlight reel of everyone else's, friendships.
Yes.
And relationships, and it's like effortless and
Perfect.
supportive, and it's never messy.
Yes.
And the reality is, a good friendship
Yeah.
is more like a really worn-in, comfy sweater.
Ooh, I like
Right? It's got some history. It's probably got some snags and maybe a couple repairs, but like it's yours.
Yes.
And it's comfortable and it brings you warmth.
And speaking of warmth, remember that time I tried to knit my dog a sweater?
Please tell me you have a picture of this.
Oh, I've got pictures. It's basically a straitjacket. I think she still holds a grudge. Anyway, but it makes me think about like this idea of expectations, because you had that other point about like self-improvement.
Right.
Like that's how we attract those good friendships.
Yes.
And I thought this was really powerful. He even said, los amigos llegan solos si uno se dedica a pulirse y mejorarse como ser humano, which for everybody else, friends come on their own if one dedicates oneself to polishing and bettering oneself as a human being.
I love it.
So good, right? It's like instead of looking for the perfect friend, be the best version of yourself and let those people come to you.
Right. Exactly. And it's about cultivating self-awareness, I think. It's about, working on our own stuff, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing where we have rough edges and being open to growing and learning.
And what I love is you're not saying like, be perfect and then you'll have friends. It's like, no, it's this ongoing journey.
It's a lifelong journey.
And that's what makes you a good friend, I think.
And the other thing that I think is so important to remember is that it's not just about us.
Right.
Right? Like, yes, self-improvement is wonderful, but we can't exist in a vacuum.
Right. We're not meant to.
Right. Like, we need community. We need to give support. We need to receive support. We need to show up for people in our lives, not just focus on ourselves.
Yes. Find that balance.
Find that balance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you know what? I think that's the perfect note to end on, because it's like that's what this whole conversation is about. There's no easy answer to why making friends is hard. But I think you've given us so much to think about today, with the internet and how we invest our time and the importance of vulnerability and self-growth. And like it's a lot, but it's all part of the equation.
It is, but I think what you said at the beginning really resonated with me. It's like we have all these pieces of the puzzle. We just have to figure out how they go together.
Yes. So to our listener, I mean, you're already on the right track, right? You're asking these questions, you're self-aware. But if you want a little something to like really chew on, you talked
Yeah.
about this idea of trabajar en uno mismo, working on yourself to attract friends. What does that look like in practice for you? Not just like up here, but like in your everyday life.
How are you living that?
Yes. Because that, to me, that's where the magic happens. And who knows, maybe you'll find some really incredible connections along the way.
In the most unexpected places.